In the shadows of ancient Greece, unusual rites and customs unfolded under marble gods. Ritual mentorships, symbolic unions, temples alive with processions and myths of divine transformations. What hidden desires and social codes shape their world? Uncover the practices that challenge our modern imagination. Welcome to Grimoryx, where ancient traditions emerge from forgotten marble veils. Ideas of intimacy in ancient Greece wove through daily life, myths and rituals, far from modern taboos. In gymnasia, the human form was celebrated openly. Mentorship sometimes carried undertones of admiration, while myths told of gods whose passions knew no bounds. Licensed companionship and symposium gatherings blended philosophy, wine and affection. These customs, unusual to us, defined social bonds, power and divine will, leaving echoes in marble and shadow. Mentorship bonds stood as a pillar of Greek society, blending education, military training and personal admiration. The older guide pursued the younger with gifts, teaching virtue through closeness. Though idealized as consensual, power dynamics loomed large. This practice, unusual today, fostered loyalty in armies and politics, a shadowy rite of passage. The mentor, an older figure, courted the younger companion with persistence and honor. Age differences often spanned late adolescence to early adulthood, focusing on beauty before maturity. The relationship promised guidance in citizenship, warfare and philosophy, veiled in emotional tension. Society praised it as elevating, yet underlying exploitation lingered. This unusual dynamic shaped Greek manhood, a dance of power and affection in twilight. Courtship involved elaborate rituals, with mentors offering symbolic gifts like hares or roosters, signs of skill and vitality. Public pursuits at wrestling schools or festivals tested resolve. If the younger accepted, a bond of loyalty was forged. These exchanges, unusual in their formality, mirrored heterosexual wooing, but for same-sex pairs. Society viewed them as honorable, a veiled game of desire and status. Physical expressions of these bonds were restrained, emphasizing dignity and honor over gratification. Artistic depictions hinted at affection, yet norms discouraged acts seen as dishonorable. This unusual restraint highlighted ideals of virtue, a delicate balance in the shadows of ancient intimacy. In Athens, such mentorships flourished among elites, but faced scrutiny in democracy. Linked to aristocracy, laws protected free youths from exploitation, fearing political corruption. Relationships often ended with maturity, transitioning to friendship. Plato idealized it as soul elevating, yet later critiqued it. This unusual custom waned, but its imprint on philosophy and art endures. A haunting legacy of love and power. In Crete, mentorship began with ritual abduction, the elder taking the youth with family consent. They spent months in wilderness, hunting and feasting, forging bonds. Upon return, gifts like armor marked adulthood. Aristotle noted it controlled population. This unusual initiation, blending discipline and tenderness, echoed myths like Zeus and Ganymede, a primal rite shrouded in island mists. Sparta viewed mentorship as guardianship, pairing boys with older warriors for training. Sources debate intimacy, some chaste, others more personal. Men lived in barracks, delaying marriage, fostering male bonds. Women enjoyed freedoms, athletic nudity. This unusual system built unbreakable armies, where affection inspired valor. Xenophon praised its purity, yet hints of closeness persisted, a stern dance of discipline and devotion. In Boeotia, mentorship was institutionalized, with couples forming the Sacred Band of Thebes, an elite force of 150 pairs. Companions fought side by side, inspired to heroism by devotion. Defeated only by Philip II, their graves testify to loyalty. Plato noted armies of lovers unbeatable, This unusual military bond blended love and war, a fatal embrace in battle's shadow. Myths underpinned these practices, with Zeus and Ganymede, Apollo and Hyacinthus, Heracles and Hylas, Poseidon and Pelops. The gods' stories normalized bonds between men. Cretans claimed these tales justified their rights. This unusual divine endorsement blurred lines between heaven and earth, eternal stories whispering acceptance in the night. Philosophers debated the merits. Plato in Phaedrus saw it fostering honour, armies invincible through love. Yet in Laws, he condemned it as unnatural, blaming Cretans for vice. Aristotle linked it to population control. Socrates practiced it chastely, focusing on soul. This unusual intellectual tangle revealed society's ambivalence, echoes of praise and critique lingering in academy's dim halls. Decline came with democracy's rise in Athens, stigmatized as aristocratic. By Hellenistic times, it evolved or faded, influenced by Roman views. Modern scholars debate consent and trauma, seeing exploitation. Yet in art and literature, its unusual legacy persists, a reminder of shifting morals. Greece's intimate mentorships, once celebrated, now evoke unease, faded whispers from a distant era. Female same-sex bonds in Greece centred on Sappho of Lesbos, whose poetry celebrated love between women. All female groups fostered connections, perhaps intimate. Myths like Artemis and her nymphs hinted at closeness. Less documented than male practices, it existed in shadows, unusual in a male-dominated world. Women's freedoms varied, but affection between them whispered defiance. Eternal verses in sea winds. Companionship for hire was ubiquitous in Greece, with establishments in ports like Piraeus offering encounters. State-regulated, it funded temples. Solon taxed it for Aphrodite's shrine. Slaves and foreigners dominated the trade, wearing distinctive clothes. Men frequented without stigma, viewing it as outlet. This unusual normalization reflected societal pragmatism. Lanterns flickering in alleyways of desire. Sacred service honoured Aphrodite, with temple women offering devotion in Corinth. Strabo described thousands-serving sailors. Rituals blended faith and intimacy, an unusual fusion of divine and human. Funds supported sanctuaries. Society accepted it as piety. Myths like Adonis reinforced worship. This practice, shocking now, sanctified desire, incense curling in holy chambers of reverence. Hetairai, educated courtesans, transcended mere companionship, entertaining elites at symposia with wit and music. Aspasia, Pericles' companion, influenced politics. They commanded high fees, owned property, unusual independence in patriarchal Greece. Vase paintings show them reclining with men, equals in conversation. This role blended intellect and charm. Elegant shadows in banquet halls of power. Symposia, all male drinking parties, mixed philosophy, music, and playful affection. Youths served wine, flirtations ensued. Artistic cups depicted unusual scenes. Hetairai, or boys entertained. Games like kotabas involve flicking dregs at targets. These gatherings, unusual in their intimacy, forged alliances. Wine-stained floors bearing silent witness to nights of revelation and desire. Festivals like the Dionysia paraded giant wooden symbols of fertility through the streets, with songs and playful mockery. Women carried models, men dressed as satyrs. These unusual celebrations honoured growth and warded off evil. The Haloa festival featured symbolic cakes and humorous jests. Society embraced the comic and the sacred together, processions echoing with laughter and chants under torchlit skies. Private acts of release were considered commonplace, sometimes even viewed as healthy, though frowned upon among elites. The philosopher Diogenes famously joked about it in public. Wishing hunger could be eased as easily. Satyrs in art were often shown indulging, and vases depicted solitary figures. Though sometimes ridiculed, it reflected attitudes toward bodily autonomy, solitary shadows in the glow of personal desire. Cross-dressing appeared in myths. Achilles disguised himself as a girl on Skyros. Hercules served Omphale in women's clothing while she wore his lion skin. Festivals allowed playful gender swaps, unusual inversions that challenged norms. These tales explored identity and power reversals. Society tolerated such fluidity in stories, less in daily life, costumes veiling deeper truths in theatrical shadows. Marriage customs saw men often marrying later in life, while brides were much younger, frequently strangers. Couples sometimes lived apart after the wedding night, with men tied to barracks or public duties. Women managed households and bore heirs. Adultery was punished severely for wives, but not for husbands. This unusual asymmetry highlighted male freedom and female seclusion, nuptial veils hiding inequalities in domestic twilight. Spartan marriage rituals were striking. Brides cut their hair short, dressed in simple garb, and awaited grooms in the dark. Men symbolically abducted them, then returned to barracks soon after. This unusual custom reflected Spartan priorities, strong offspring and disciplined households. Lycurgus's laws encouraged practicality over romance, moonlit unions whispering of warrior values. Myths often told of unions between gods and animals, Persephone and the bull leading to the Minotaur, Europa carried away by Zeus in bull form. Satyrs were depicted pursuing beasts in art. These unusual tales symbolized chaos and divine whim. While society condemned such acts in reality, the stories endured. Monstrous unions haunting labyrinthine depths. Incest appeared frequently among the gods. Zeus wed his sister Hera, and myths like Oedipus explored the tragedy of unknowingly marrying one's parent. Real society abhorred such unions, punishing them severely, though royal dynasties sometimes intermarried. This unusual divine precedent contrasted mortal taboos, highlighting hypocrisy, eternal kinships twisted in Olympian gloom. The unusual practices of ancient Greece fade into myth, yet their echoes question our own boundaries. From mentorship bonds to divine excesses, a civilization thrived on desires unbound. In candlelit ruins, truths linger like ghosts, reminding us history's shadows hold both beauty and unease. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let your curiosity summon more shadows from the past until the next enigma awakens in the dark. We'll meet where history's whispers grow loud.